Managing in a downturn, indeed. When economic conditions are favorable, one could argue it's not too difficult to make money. As Kennedy once famously said, the high tide raises all the boats. But when the tide goes out, we then find out who's been swimming naked, and sometimes it's not a pretty sight. And as a consequence, changing economic conditions do place different challenges on organisation. And I think these are the things we observe and a couple of perhaps advice to businesses who may find themselves in the current climate having to have a different level of discussion. Number one, the business plan has to change, have to be redrawn, have to be revisited. We no longer can guarantee the economic tailwind that guaranteed growth, not for a while anyway. So all the assumptions which would have underpinned the current strategy as manifested in the plan and all the planning will need to be changed. That's just fact of life, and we need to do that. I see a lot of people putting freeze on recruitment, putting freeze on advertising, marketing, management training, and cutting costs. Sometimes you have to do that. If sales drop, if your margins are under pressure, you may have no other leg room but to cut your cost. Yeah? Having said that, cutting cost is not a strategy. Cutting cost is like surgery. It corrects a wrong. That's all it does. Once you've cut it down to what you think is an optimum level, there's no more to cut. It's slimming, turning into anorexia. And at some point, it actually causes harm on the business. So I think we need to be smart on this. You may have to do it, but that is not strategy, and that should not drive your thinking. This is kind of quite key. Another discussion you need to have is about competitors. You struggling, chances are they're struggling too. And competitors are known to do crazy things and are known to behave very irrationally in difficult times. And that I think is a discussion well worth having, which is what is the craziest thing your competitors could do? Because the chances are they would. Then difficult time themselves, we need to have that conversations. And that will give a whole range of derivative thinking. Can we fight a price war? Would we want to fight a price war? From a cash flow perspective, from a brand perspective, from a margin perspective. If we have to discount our price, our margins by X%, let's make sure we understand the financial impact of that margin reduction on cash flow and on profitability. How far down can we go? How long can we keep this going if indeed we force down that route? These are really important discussions we need to have. On the cash flow thing, of course cash is important. It's lifeblood of every business. Jesse James, bank robber, was once famously asked, Jesse, why do you keep robbing banks? To which he said, that's where they keep the cash. It's not a difficult question. And whereas of course we need to identify cash flow, because a cash flow squeeze can precipitate one legally into an insolvent position. But I think we also need to ask, do we understand the drivers of cash? Do we understand the absorbers of cash? Why do we find ourselves in a cash illiquid position? As opposed to simply saying, we need cash, therefore let's borrow some more. If you look at the plight currently of General Motors, General Motors has destroyed shareholder value since 2000. Strategically, there are huge question marks about that business. And because they're being helped, bailed out by the American government, because one of the factors are they would run out of cash, and the view was sometime by September of this year. So is that cash bailout going to revive the business, or is it merely a stay of execution? Time will tell. And that's the question businesses must pose themselves. Do we really understand why is our cash drying up? What levers can we pull? What options do we have to actually perhaps replenish that cash position? Banks and bankers are already very nervous. Don't add to their nervousness. Manage that relationship far more than you would need to. That's perhaps the topic of another video conversation. But banks need to be made to understand the full risk of your business. Be open with them. Flood them with information. Give them access to information. The more they understand your business, the more they understand the risks about your business, the chances are they will make a better informed decision as opposed to pulling the plug. So don't add to their nervousness. You really do need to manage that relationship very, very carefully. A very sad part of economic downturns is that sometimes we have to lose people. It's not a nice thing, it's the worst part of the job, but sometimes it has to happen, I'm afraid. So be clear as to who are the imposters and who are the key people here. Who are the people you really don't want to lose? And we've seen many examples of organizations moving to 4 day a week, for example, to some level of part-time accommodation. Don't let experience go. That is absolutely crazy. People who work for you have amassed knowledge over a number of years. Don't lose that out for the sake of a cost reduction. And not just for the banks, but for yourselves. In erratic economic conditions, have plan B, have plan C, have plan D. Because the chances are you may have to revert to those. There are different times, there are difficult times, but perhaps the last key message there is this. So often our thinking becomes clouded in distress, cash flow, cutting costs, will we survive? And yes, there are important discussions, of course so. We mustn't forget Oracle and Microsoft both grew out of difficult economic times. In difficult economic times, opportunities arise as well. And that discussion must never ever be forgotten, because economies go in cycles. That cycle will go. We don't know when, but it will go, it will change. Just make sure you at the same time build an intelligent and robust platform for the future. You'll benefit from it, your organization will benefit from it.